Hello everyone and welcome back to Aussies Elect. Today we are doing a video finally for the House of Representatives in the federal election coming up on Saturday. I'm sorry it's taken this long for me to do a House of Representatives video. In the last couple of weeks, the coalition has drawn nearer to Labour. I don't think it's quite 51-49 what the news poll is saying. I think it's more like something like 51.7 or something like that. But the coalition have gotten rid of the lead that the Labour Party have had, and that does mean that the amount of seats that I can actually give the Labour Party, that I can predict the Labour Party, is probably a lot less than it was a month or two ago. Not been great for the Labour Party lately. I don't exactly know why. I think their campaign in the last 2 weeks has been really good, but it hasn't seemed to sway anybody. But I'll go over exactly what my predictions are. So here we have Labour starting on 70. So they've actually gained one since the last election, without doing anything. That's because a new seat has been added to ACT and Victoria, both of which are, safe Labour seats. A seat has been removed from South Australia, which is also a safe Labour seat, which is Port Adelaide. So basically Labour are +2 -1. There are two seats which have gone to be notionally coalition, which means that they're not Labour seats currently, but they're in the area to be effectively a Labour seat, and that is Corangamite and Dunkley, but I've not included them yet. But let's get straight into the predictions. So the biggest states for Labour will be Queensland and Victoria. That's what everyone's talking about, where Labour's going to make most of its gains. And so for the three seats which I have that are definite, that I'm very sure, 90% sure that Labour will gain, is 2 in Queensland and 1 in Victoria. So we've got Ford and Petrie in Queensland, which is a similar story. It's like they're like Brisbane city seats basically, and we've got Dunkley in Victoria, which once again is that seat. We see the Labour notionally ahead. So we've got Labour at 73 now, Coalition at 71, Greens 1, Centre Alliance 1, Katter, and 4 Independent. This is what I think is definite, and this would leave Labour a chance to form government, but we've got a few more nuances to deal with before I can actually conclude it, that this is a safe election for Labour. So I'm just going to firstly, before I go any further, just look at some seats where the coalition can gain. So we have New South Wales. We have the seat of Wentworth, where what's her name, Karen Phelps, was elected last year in a by-election. A lot of people are expecting that this seat will go back to the Liberal Party now that people have had their angst. We also have Indi in Victoria, which some people are expecting are going to go back to the coalition. I am not going to give it to them at this stage. I'm not sure about that. I'm not as sure as I am about Wentworth. Queensland, we have Herbert, which the coalition think that they can grab off by Labour, and I think that's definitely possible. So we're just going to go back to how it was before. I think it's very possible for the coalition to grab Herbert, and that's kind of confirmed the opportunity for that by a new news poll showing the coalition ahead in Herbert. We also have Lindsay in New South Wales, which there was a news poll today which said that the coalition could grab. There's been a bit of a swing against Labour there. I'm going to leave that one for now. I think there's a good chance that could end up staying stable. When we get to the election, there was a poll a couple of weeks ago which said a similar story, but it was more like a very minor swing against the Labour Party. I'm going to leave that one. I don't think that's definite. We also have Braddon and Bass in Tasmania. Bass, there was a poll saying that the LNP were way ahead. I thought that poll was absolute bullshit. And a news poll, it showed that Labour has got a swing against them, but it's not far enough. And I think it's a similar story for Braddon. But I think that, that could be another gain for the coalition. So if we look at what we have here, we've got 73, 72, 71, 1, 1 and 3, which, hung Parliament. Similar story to Julia Gillard. We've got Gilmore in New South Wales. Most people are expecting that Labour are going to pick up this seat. I don't think they're going to pick up any other seats in New South Wales, apart from perhaps Reid. I personally find it hard to believe that they'd pick up this and lose Lindsay. I mean, they're not too far away from each other. It's something to do with, Malcolm Turnbull leaving, and then also the local member, Craig Laundy, retiring. but lots of the people have, I guess, the pollsters and the betting markets have said that they're going to pick up Reed. So I'm just going to give it to them, even if I think it's kind of like how, like, would you expect that if they if they're looking to lose Lindsay. Victoria, we've got Chisholm, Latrobe, and Karangamite. Karangamite is being kind of up in the air. Uh, because and oh, by the way, Chisholm is the Julia Banks seat, so I can take one off of the independents. Corangamite, there has been a poll from Newspoll, once again with the same source. They did give it to Labor, so it's been kind of indecisive. A lot of people have said that there's a chance Labor will take it, or there's actually a chance the coalition will somehow hold on to it. But once again, I'm going to give the seat to Labor, especially as that a lot of my kind of predictions are kind of conservative for the Labor Party. But Western Australia, we've got Hasluck. This is the only seat I think that they will pick up in Western Australia, in my opinion. I think there's not a large margin of Hasluck. It's 2.1% versus the other seats, which is Swan and Pierce, which are on 3.6%. There has been a slight swing against the coalition in Western Australia, and that's why I think it's enough to give them that seat. But getting Swan and Pierce are going to be a different story. We got Dixon in Queensland. A lot of people are saying that this is like I could not see Peter Dutton winning, especially after all of the drama that's happened lately. I think Peter Dutton is going to lose that seat to the Labor Party. It's once again it's a Brisbane City seat. And people will be expressing anger about Malcolm Turnbull and especially his actions in removing him. We've got Leichhardt in Queensland, which people are saying that are going to be a target for Labor due to the environmental issues about the Great Barrier Reef and Adani and things like that. And that leaves me with the end of my predictions. My probably predictions, and it has Labor on 80, Coalition on 66, Greens on 1, Centre Alliance on 1, Katter on 1, and Independents on 2. So this is kind of conservative. A lot of people are predicting that Labor is going to get about mid 80s. I mean, I guess lately because of the fact that the polls are tightened. That's why I'm being this conservative with these seats. And this is government for Labor. It's not like a strong government, but it's government. There's nothing particularly wrong with this. They got some Greens and some Independents as backup. But let's move forward with some of the other seats which I think are possible. So at this stage, I think I'll give Lindsay to the coalition, just so we can have a look. I mean, Labor still gets government with this. But yeah, we got Capricornia, which people are suggesting is going to go to the coalition because of the Adani issue, much like how Leichhardt is going to go to the Labor Party because of the Adani issue. We've also got Dawson, which I don't believe will go. Like a lot of polls have shown that George Christensen is likely to keep that seat. Also because of Adani. Boothby in South Australia, the only seat in South Australia that might move hands. I'm going to put that on. I don't think the swing is going to be very high in South Australia. We got Bonner in Queensland. I'm not sure if the swing is going to be high enough for that too. It's not quite as inner city as the other seats that I've marked off for the Labor Party in southeast Brisbane. And we have Robertson in New South Wales, which is not looking as likely as Reed or Gilmore for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. We've got Flynn in Queensland, which is on quite a small margin. It's on 1.1%, but once again, some polls and thoughts have indicated that Flynn might not flip to the Labor Party. But this is kind of like a Labor Party hopeful scorecard for them. Labor 84, Coalition 62. I mean, if it ends up being something like 52 to 48, I think this is definitely possible, especially if it's like 52.5 to 48, 47.5. I will talk about a couple of more seats and say why I don't necessarily think it's going to go to the Labor Party, where other people might have predicted. Yep, Swan and Pierce, we already discussed them. I don't think the swing is going to be high enough in Western Australia. I think there's a chance that maybe one of them will go to Labor, but to be conservative, I'm not going to give it to them at all. Page, there's not a kind of mood in the seat of Page to make it maybe go to the Labor Party. Banks in New South Wales, Casey and Deakin, both seats which have a little bit of a margin buffer of them. This is in Victoria, which they believe that there's a chance of a total wipeout for the coalition. So, um, Casey's got 4.5% and Deacon's got 6.4%. A lot of people, for some reason, they're giving it more likely to go to for Deacon to go than they are for Casey. I presume it's something to do with its where it is. And we've got Cowper versus Independent. I will definitely mention this. A lot of people are expecting Rob Oakeshott will take the seat of Cowper. We also have Farah by an independent, which people are suspecting might also go to an independent. Oops. Um, there's the whole water buyback thing. I'm not sure how it's going to impact votes. Unfortunately, the shooters, fishers, and farmers have weakened a little bit since the state election because they haven't as much funding. So I don't think that's going to hit the coalition as much as maybe it would have if there was a really strong opposition against them. I don't think Sturt, Bowman, Higgins, or Brisbane will change. All of them have just too higher margins. Even if they're in areas which you would think like would have a bit of a swing against them. I also don't think that Sterling, Canning, Flinders, Ryan, Aston, or Kooyong will change. I just don't think the swing is high enough. Yeah, that's about it actually. So um, this is, I think, the best Labour can do, presuming the polls are at all accurate. And it's not a bad parliament for them. I mean, considering what has happened in the coalition in the past 6 years, it is pretty abysmal that they can only do this well. I will say that, but that's an obviously a very lengthy conversation. Um, I have so much to say about all of this stuff, but like the tightness of this race is extraordinary. I would have not thought that this election would be this tight, and it is actually incredibly remarkable that it is. There have been elections where I can maybe see it, like last election, I understand why it was so tight, why the coalition barely won, but this one, the fact that Labor are only barely ahead is incredibly concerning because there's no reason why they should be only barely ahead. Um, but this is a prediction video. I'm not going to get into exactly politics, but it's not. We're not going to see anything remarkable this election. I think it's going to be. I mean, I don't think it's going to be the New South Wales election. I don't think it's going to be that status quo. But we're not going to see many surprises. We're not going to see Labor landslide or anything or taking a ton of seats. There's just going to be a couple of seats here and there in Queensland and Victoria, and then trading back a little bit. And even after removal of Malcolm Turnbull, who was very popular, a lot of people thought that that would be the end of the coalition. They're still hanging in. They're still hanging in a bit, and there's a good chance that that a hung parliament is quite likely. And I mean, a chance of the coalition to actually get a majority government, I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening. It should not happen. But by the way that the polls have reacted to the campaign, honestly, anything can happen. People could go in the voting booth and make a split decision to vote for the coalition, even if the polls have been telling us for the past 3 years that people do not want this government back. It will be remarkable if we see more seats go to the coalition that were Labor seats than we did last election, considering the last election had a very popular Prime Minister at the helm. And also, we'd only seen one switch of Prime Minister rather than two switches of Prime Minister. But yeah, I guess we'll see what will happen. I'll do some more predictions. I'll probably make it, a little bit nicer, where you can actually see where my gains that I think that there'll be later this week. We're not going to see too many polls out. I think maybe like 2 or 3 more polls out. There hasn't been many polls this election, to be honest. I'm also going to do another Senate prediction very soon. So yeah. So this is my final prediction. I have Labor gaining Ford, Petrie, Dixon, and Leichhardt in Queensland. I have them also gaining Dunkley, Corangamite, Latrobe, Chisholm, and Casey in Victoria. I have them also getting Gilmore in New South Wales, and I have them getting Hasluck in WA. I also have Labour losing Herbert. I also have the Coalition gaining back Wentworth, but also losing Warringah, Farrer, and Cowper to independents. I have no changes in South Australia, Tasmania, ACT, or the Northern Territory, and I have no Green gains from the Coalition or Labour. I don't think this is particularly too conservative. I can see Labour doing maybe a few seats less than this, but going to be very surprised if Labour only just get a majority government. Going to be very surprised, but I guess we'll see. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon.